Hey everyone, welcome back to Mitch and the Kitch. Today we're making chicken. I've got an awesome chicken recipe for you. We're going to bake it in the oven. It's going to roast, get nice and delicious. And on top of that, we're going to spatchcock it. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a trend these days to go ahead and spatchcock the chicken. I want to show you guys what that's all about, tell you why I love to do it, show you just how easy it is. So let's get to it. All right, so why are we going to spatchcock the chicken? And before that, what is spatchcocking the chicken? So obviously you've got your chicken here, you know, kind of a oval shape and a little bit of a ball. Typically you just kind of throw it in the oven or throw it on the grill, whatever, cook it up whole. You know, one of the problems with that is it's hard to get the breast meat to the same doneness as the dark meat. You know, typically the breast dries out on you pretty good, and the dark meat, you know, is nice and juicy and tender. Breast is dry, kind of disgusting. Conversely, you know, the breast gets perfect and juicy. The dark meat, not quite as good, a little bit undercooked, and not what we want. So spatchcocking, we're essentially just going to remove the backbone and lay the chicken out flat. And that's going to give us the advantage of having everything on the same surface, and it's going to be able to cook a lot more evenly. You'll see we'll be able to season it really well, top and bottom. One of the downsides of this method is, you know, kind of that middle, you have to stuff it. It's kind of hard to get seasoning in there. Some of the, you know, kind of unsavory bits of the chicken come in there sometimes, and this is just going to eliminate all that, and we're going to get a perfectly seasoned, perfectly done, beautiful roasted chicken. All right, so another benefit to spatchcocking the chicken is crust, and you're gonna get that nice, beautiful chicken skin. You know, some people love it, some people don't like it, but a benefit to being able to cut it and basically open it up and cook it completely exposed top side, skin side, is that we're gonna be able to get all that brown and crispy and delicious. As you'll see when we bake it, we're gonna put it in the top third of the oven just till it gets a little bit closer to that upper heat element, and so that's gonna get that extra crispy skin that we desire. And you're just gonna have to trust me on that. You'll see it when it's all done. Okay, so to spatchcock the chicken, you really only need some good scissors. You really could do this with a knife if you absolutely had to. If you do, you're gonna get kind of close to your fingers. I recommend not doing it that way. A good pair of kitchen shears is what I recommend. You should have them on hand regardless. I mean, it's gonna be helpful to open up anything that's kind of tricky or stubborn, or, you know, cutting up chicken or cutting up other proteins. So having these on hand is great. The ones I have, I couldn't even tell you the brand, but they open up, so when I go to clean them, I can just clean each one. So if you are looking for kitchen shears, I do recommend trying to find some that open up because it just makes cleaning a lot easier. So hardware, it's really just the scissors. We might use a knife a little bit to clean up some stuff, but for the most part, once we cut it open, flip it over, it's gonna be looking pretty good. You guys know me, I like to use my gloves for food safety, and also just because sometimes raw chicken feels a little weird, so we're gonna glove up here. And as I'm gloving up, one of the things you can see is the chicken is on a baking sheet with a wire rack with some foil underneath. So we're gonna prep right on that. That way we don't have to go wash a cutting board later. You know, it just makes it nice and easy. And the chicken's gonna bake. It's gonna be elevated. You know, that's one of the keys when you're cooking chicken. You know, we talked about that nice flat top. It's gonna get nice and crispy, and it's gonna be beautiful. But raising it allows air to flow underneath as well. So the bottom is gonna get some of that dry air. It's not gonna turn out soggy. If you've cooked a whole chicken before, just kind of in a pan, you know, the bottom just kind of is a little bit gross. You know, the skin is still a little rubbery. So elevating it, getting it flat, it's gonna be awesome for us. So we've got our chicken, it's breast side up right now, so we just need to flip it over and get at that back side. As I said, scissors right down the back on both sides, pop that guy out. You kind of flatten it out, I'll show you how to do that, and that's about it. All right, so you got your scissors. So this they call, I think, like the Pope's nose, or there's some other little names for it. I think it's sometimes called the butt. I don't know if it's actually the chicken butt, but the scissors just go right down the side of it. If you've never done this before, it's honestly pretty easy. I mean, you'll kind of have a natural groove there. You can see the scissors go through pretty easy. I'm not cutting through too much stuff, and it's the same on both sides. Just kind of cut, cut, cut. Make sure you're in there. All right, and that's it. So that's the back of the chicken. pretty simple, pretty easy. You do want to save this if you can. You can make stock out of it. You can make a sauce or a gravy from it. I used to always kind of throw bits like this out. I've learned to save them, hold on to them. I always have fresh chicken stock on hand, so we don't want to waste things if we don't have to. So go ahead and hold on to that. Okay, so we cut the chicken. You can see it's starting to open up a little bit. I'm going to get some paper towel and dry out the middle, just because I wasn't able to quite do that when I first unwrapped the chicken. Again, this is another one of those things that opening this guy up is going to make it a little bit easier, a little bit better for us. And in general, when you do unwrap your chicken and when you're roasting, when you're smoking, you want to get that exterior, as dry as you can. That's going to lead to getting that crispy skin, whether it's just for presentation or for eating. So we're able to dry that out. That's good. And now you can see it's already flatter from this side. We're going to flip it over. And essentially the breastbone, you kind of just have to like pop it. Some of you, maybe you need to get the other spouse to give a hand here if you're a little bit afraid of it, but it's really easy. You kind of just push down. You hear that pop. That's all you need to do. And you can see the chicken is laying really flat. You see the breasts, the wings, the legs, the thighs. It's all exposed. It's all there for you. And this is the real reason that we like the spatchcock, because you can just get the whole chicken exposed. And it's time to season it up. So for seasoning, we always want to think about the presentation side. This is a big thing, especially in the barbecue world. You see those nice, juicy, meaty briskets. They look great because those pit masters are taking the presentation side into account, and that's the last side we want to season, because we don't want to season this, turn it over, season the other side, flip it back. Some of the seasoning gets stuck on the wire rack or comes off. So this is the last side we're going to touch. So flip it over. Again, just kind of look if you see anything that doesn't look too great. You got your knife, just kind of cut it off. Toss things out. I don't know if you guys are going to be super interested in seeing all the grossest parts of the chicken, but that is part of the process. It's nothing too bad. And to me that looks pretty good. So we're going to get to seasoning this side. I like to put a little bit of oil on just as a base. It is kind of wet enough, moist enough that you could put the seasoning on, it'll stick. The oil just gives it a little bit more to stick to, and also it'll help crisp it up in the oven. So a little bit of oil. I tend to just go with avocado. You can kind of use whatever. Avocado is my kind of just base cooking oil these days. It's got a higher smoke point. Doesn't really add much flavor, which you don't necessarily want it to. If I was gonna finish with a nice olive oil or add some at the very end that you're going to taste, that's when that nice olive oil comes into play. But for cooking, a nice neutral oil, high smoke point does the trick. Okay, for seasoning, you could do salt and pepper. You can honestly just do salt. You can make it as simple as you want. You can use any sort of rub or blend, whatever really excites you. For me lately, I've kind of been blending rubs. I picked that up watching some guys on YouTube, and I thought it was a cool idea. You get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, kind of get a nice base layer, add some more to the top. So for me, my two favorites these days, especially for chicken, happen to both be from Pit Boss. This is just their all-purpose garlic, salt, pepper. So I really like this as kind of that base layer. The garlic, the salt, the pepper, kind of the three essentials there. And this is a finer granule, so the first time I maybe over-seasoned a little bit just because I underestimated the fineness of the salt. So because I'm layering it, I don't need to go too heavy, just a little bit there. That's good. And then my second is the Champion Chicken. My go-to for chicken these days, whether it's on its own, kind of combo rub. It just smells good. It's got some herbs, some spices. I just really like it. Obviously, you guys use salt, pepper, whatever else you want. I'm always impressed with you guys out there that are making your own rubs, especially for poultry. I'm not quite at that level yet, but maybe one day I'll venture into it. But for now, I'm gonna use what the professionals make for me. Season her up. And another trick, so this comes with two sides, kind of the holes and then the open side. I tend to go with the open side on this one because there are some larger granules, and so I don't want those to get stuck in the holes. They're big enough for it to come through, but me just being a little bit overly detailed and stuff, I tend to open that up, and then you're able to get those nice large granules onto the chicken. This side's seasoned. We're going to flip it over to the presentation side, get it seasoned up, get it in the oven. Honestly, it's that simple. You just kind of let it roast, and it'll tell you when it's done. but this is why this method is great. You know, it'll cook really deliciously. It's gonna look cool. You know, I think kind of that whole flat chicken is a really nice presentation as well. And so let's get the side seasoned. When you are seasoning, you know, really anything, you want to get as much contact as possible, seasoning to meat. So here, you know, kind of lifting up the wing, you know, making sure all those sides, you know, you can see me kind of curling my hand around, making sure that we're getting the sides of everything. You know, everyone likes their own little bits of the chicken. You know, some people like the little wing tip and the little wing and leg bits every now and again. So try to season everything best you can. Unless you're eating the whole thing for yourself, then go ahead and do what you want. But as even a seasoning as you possible on every kind of nook and cranny, definitely the way to go. So base layers on, let's hit it with the champion chicken. Again, the reason I like this guy second, because it has those larger granules, and I feel like that kind of sits up on top of the chicken, provides a nice little color, nice texture balance to it, and just a nice little rub for me. See, that looks pretty good, looks pretty seasoned. So we got the oven rolling at 400 degrees. As we said, the rack is gonna be, whatever your middle rack is, one rack higher. You could do it on the middle, but I think one rack higher really gets it closer to that top heating element, and that's gonna cook the skin a little bit better for you. 400 degrees, 375, 350, 450. It's a little bit up to you, you know, as we go along here. For whatever reason, it seems like it's getting a little bit overcooked on the top. We can drop it down, we can cover it with foil. If it seems like the interior is getting too high, we can always crank that up or even broil it. So there's a little bit of variability there, but 400 is a pretty standard temp, and we're also gonna maybe have some other things going in the oven, so hotter temp always works better for that. Okay, so the last tool is gonna be a thermometer. So you can use like a normal probe thermometer. You stick it in, you kind of check the chicken as it goes. You know, it could be 30 minutes, 45, an hour. You could use these guys, which is the probe thermometer that you leave in there. I tend to really like this just because this one is wireless. You don't have to fuss with any of those. It connects to my phone, so I'm able to just kind of check the temperature from my phone. You know, I tend to be a little lazier, so if I'm laying on the couch or if I'm doing something else, I don't have to get up and physically go check the chicken. Another advantage is you don't want to open the oven if you don't have to. So keeping all that heat in there is important, and opening the oven every few minutes to check the temperature is really something we don't want to do. So having one of these thermometers that you can leave in the chicken, watch it from your phone, I think is a really big advantage. So we are gonna get the thermometer and put it in the thickest part of the breast. As we said, it's gonna cook pretty evenly. We're still probably gonna double check it with another thermometer, but I wanna go into the deepest part of the breast. The deepest part because that is gonna be the part that reaches proper temperature at the longest point. So if you go into like a thinner part, that gets up to 165 degrees, you're like, oh, this is great. Slice the chicken open, the middle's pink, and you can't serve it, you can't eat it. So we wanna get to that middle point. So I typically just kind of go right through here. You kind of can like eyeball it and try to figure out where that is, approximate how far, you really want to go in wherever it's getting stuck. But I tend to go right there. I feel like that's pretty good. And again, we're probably going to double check it later, so it's not super important. It's more just a gauge for us. All right, our chicken is prepped, ready to get into the 400-degree oven. We're going to go for an internal temp of 165. Typically there's a little bit of a carryover, especially when cooking at a temp as high as 400. So you can take it out when it's at about 160, rest it, it'll get up to 165. This thermometer actually takes that into account, so it tells you when to take it off, and it kind of knows when it's going to coast up to 165. But if you are using, a normal thermometer, or you're sticking it with it, about 160 would be awesome. Pull it out, it'll get to 165, 170 as it rests. But into the oven we go. Our chicken is temping out at 160 internal. I want to get it measured with, again, another thermometer just to check it. We'll see where we're at. If it is looking like it's 160, we'll pull it, we'll let it rest. Let's go ahead and get that done. It's smoking like it's ready. It looks really good. As you guys probably just saw me take it out of there. I did transfer it down to the bottom rack. I switched the veggies. The chicken's so good. My dog Cupcake is barking. He's loving it. He loves chicken. He can definitely smell it. And I didn't want it to get much darker than this. I think it looks great. Like I said, the thermometer's telling us 160. Let's go ahead and test it here. So again, you're kind of going for the thickest point. 161, 160. It's looking like it's 160. So that's perfect for me. It's gonna come up to 165 as it rests. This chicken's done. We're gonna let it rest, and then we're gonna slice into it, see how we did. We have our beautiful spatchcock chicken here. It's rested for a while. With this guy, you could rest it anywhere from like 5, I'd recommend 10 minutes if you can, up to like 15 or 20, maybe even 30 if you put it in a cooler, put some foil over it. It looks beautiful, perfectly roasted. You got some nice crispy skin bits like I promised. I did have to transfer this one rack below during the cooking. The last maybe 10 minutes or so, I was noticing it was getting a little bit darker, and I wanted to get it away from that top heat element. So I dropped it down to the bottom. As you'll see next week, I flipped the veggies to the top, and this is the result, perfectly cooked chicken. It's beautiful. I think it makes a great presentation. It's all even. You can kind of go in there and see the pieces you want and dig at it. For me, that's usually the wing, which obviously gets messy on camera, but whatever. I mean, that's pretty tender, right? Just pulled right apart, no resistance. You get some nice crispy edges there. For me, I can't eat wings with like chewy, fatty exterior, so that, I mean, you can kind of hear the crunch. Let's see how the seasoning is. Let's see how the tenderness is. Man. Yeah, that's why I'm 300 plus pounds, because chicken wings are tasty. I absolutely love them. I can't turn them down. And again, these are kind of like the most exposed pieces. So the fact that they're still tender and still really juicy and delicious with a crisp exterior really goes to show you how the spatchcock chicken works its magic. All right, so I tried my favorite bit, that little chicken wing. Now I'm gonna slice into it, see how we did on the breast meat. I like to kind of go down the side. Oh man, the juice is like literally running out. It's so juicy and tender. Oh yeah. All right, so the knife goes in, kind of run it down, come across. I mean, you guys can see, that is a super juicy and succulent piece of chicken. That's what you don't typically get in a chicken. You overcook it in a traditional method, or a spatchcock method, preserves that, nice crispy skin, well seasoned. Let's get a little bit of a piece. I mangle this. Let's try it. Actually, I'm gonna dip it in some of the exterior seasoning. Oh man. Wow. Oh, it's so good. It's super tender. You're just not used to chicken like this good. It's tender, it's tasty. You got the skin if you want. I haven't even stopped chewing and I'm so excited to tell you about it. I just really love this. I mean, the wing is awesome, the breast is awesome. Obviously, the leg and the thigh are gonna be awesome as well. I tend to, like all 4 pieces. I don't necessarily have a true favorite. Wing kind of calls to me, like I said, but at any given day, I'll dig into either one. So please let me know what you like best on your chicken down below in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. If you have any alterations, different ways you like to cook it, I always love to learn, love to try new methods. So please drop me a comment, let me know. Hope you tune in next time. Hope you enjoyed.